Currently, the Ukrainian Defense Forces control the central part of Toretsk city, but the situation there changes every hour since the Russians do not stop meat assaults. This was stated in an interview with Ukrainian Truth by the commander of the 4th Battalion of the 101st Separate Brigade of the General Staff Security of Ukraine, Bohdan Popelnukha. Our infantry are titans. Everyone who is there is a hero. They do superhuman work, hold house after house, inflict fire damage on the enemy, inflict losses on him so that he gives up the offensive, and the Russians are endlessly marching like meat. Forward. Take this house, he said. He noted that Ukrainian fighters understand that there is a war in the country now, and they need to mow down the enemy, so they do not need to be persuaded to take up positions. They don't need to be told. Vasya, you have to. Vasya knows it himself. When we set a task for the infantry to enter a position or conduct assault operations, then all the questions that they will ask will concern the situation, he noted. The military man also noted that the majority of Russian prisoners in this area are prisoners, and young ones at that. The oldest prisoner was a boy born in 1998. The rest were born in 2001, 2003. When you talk to them, they say, "We have a better chance of surviving when we go forward towards you than if we go back and say that we are the 300ths, the soldier says. He also notes that Russians separate as much as possible those who have been mobilized, friends, or those who were imprisoned together, so that around them there are only those who are ready to shoot a comrade in order to survive. Popelnukha notes that if the Russians manage to capture Toretsk, they will rush to Konstantinovka, since there is a fork in the road that leads to the main settlements of the Donetsk region. In Toretsk, Donetsk region, fighting continues. The defense forces are holding back the enemy's advances. At the same time, the Russians' advance in Toretsk is minimal, as the press secretary of the Operational Tactical Group of Troops, Lugansk, Anastasia Bobovnikova, said in a month they advanced one street, and during this time they lost 70 to 80 people, killed and wounded every day. At the same time, the occupiers have made significant advances in the city of Kurakovo, after the capture of which they can concentrate all their forces and reserves to occupy Pokrovsk in order to reach the rear of Toretsk. And Chasovo Yar believes the head of security programs at the Center for Globalistics Strategy 21, Pavel Lakichuk. Military and political observer Alexander Kovalenko stated that the Russians plan to establish control over the Kurakov salient by the end of 2024. According to him, they need it for an offensive on Pokrovsk, which the enemy wants to capture as early as 2025.
Syrian insurgents have marched into wide government-controlled areas in northern Syria, capturing large parts of the country's largest city and its international airport, as well as dozens of nearby villages and towns. The stunning offensive by insurgents led by the Salafi jihadi group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, triggered the heaviest clashes in the country since a March 2020 ceasefire brokered by Turkey and Russia, who back rival sides in the conflict, brought relative calm to northern Syria. The push by insurgents came as Lebanon's Hezbollah group has withdrawn much of its fighters into Lebanon over the past few years, and Russia, that played an instrumental role in the conflict, has been bogged down by the war in Ukraine. After taking large parts of Aleppo province, including the provincial capital that carries that same name, and southern parts of the northwestern province of Idlib, the insurgents tried to march toward the central city of Hama, but have so far been stopped by government forces and pro-government paramilitary groups. Russian and Syrian Air Force carried out dozens of airstrikes over the past days, inflicting heavy casualties among the insurgents. 5 countries have military presence in Syria, including the US that has troops deployed in the country's east, Turkey that controls parts of northern Syria, Israel that has presence in the Golan Heights, and Iran that has been a main backer of Assad. Russia has presence in government-held areas mainly along the Mediterranean coast that is home to the only Russian naval base outside the former Soviet Union.
بيشوف في المطار.